Hey guys, welcome. I'm so excited to do this. I was going to postpone it until tomorrow, but I figured it's been quite a while since we've had a live, and why not just go ahead and have a why not just go ahead and have a live where, we can just be casual and, if you can come and stay, I would love to have you here for the whole live. If you can come catch a little bit, or if you have to catch the replay, I'm a-okay with that. I am I'm just really blown away by the amount of comments that have been coming through on the videos. And some of you know because we've been having conversation in the comments, but I've really been trying to get a hold, or not a hold, but I've been trying to do better about answering and responding to the comments. And thankfully they're in the thousands, so it gets to be a little difficult to respond to everybody. So what better way to do that than to be here with you live? I have a couple of the videos that I think provoked quite a bit of questions. And then, of course, the ultimate one being the phone ping video seemed to be the one that everyone had questions about, or just wanted maybe a little bit more detail or in depth conversation and discussion with even how I feel about it. So let's get this thing started. I want to wait just a little bit for other people to come in. So while I do that, I'm just going to share a few things with you. And also, first and foremost, can you guys hear me okay? I'm trying a new setup, and if I don't have to use my headphones, then I won't. But if I do, then I have some new headphones. So you guys let me know if you can hear me okay, whether it's a thumbs up, a yellow heart, anything like that in the comments. Okay, perfect. Miss Graves says yes. Donna says yes. All right, wonderful. So I'm trying this whole new setup, and unfortunately, for the time being, I don't quite have a disc. So you guys are propped up on a pillow right now. Um, okay, so let me just go ahead and share with you a few things about what's going on, why you've started seeing some changes on the channel. I do want to discuss with you the ruling, or the quote unquote win for Frankie Jr. and the Ruseks, what that means. I'll be honest with you, I've not dove into the legal side of that yet, but I do have my thoughts on I do have some opinions, if you will, at having been involved with this case for about 5.5 years of research and all the things. So, first and foremost, welcome. If you're new here, I really appreciate you being here. You are among probably one of the best communities on true crime. Um, Everybody knows, please remain respectful. And if you're going to share your opinion, just make sure you state it's in my opinion, all the things. For those of you who have been with me since the beginning, I do want to say thank you so much. I would love to mention you each individually, but I just, I had a goal for myself last year after being told by an ex that my channel would never amount to anything. I had a goal for myself, and that was 5,000 subscribers. And guys, you guys hit it on Christmas Day. And so that was literally the best. That was the best gift to wake up on Christmas Day and see. So I was really excited about that. And let's see. So a little bit of behind the scenes information. I do have some new videos and new content coming out. And some of it was inspired by not only where I want the channel to go moving forward and in the future, but also making sure that I keep to a promise that I made. Many of you know that last year at Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, I took a visit to Aberdeen, North Carolina, and I went to take flowers to Shanae and the girls and Nico. And while I was there, it was very much a professional visit, from the sense of this was, obviously my YouTube channel covers that case, but it was also a very personal visit for me. And, something I've said before in recent videos that, I'll keep what I shared with her, between that moment at that graveside with her. However, I do want to share with you that, one of the promises I made as a creator both to myself and to the victims of any case that I cover. And that is that I don't just want to create content and throw it out there frivolously. I don't want it to just be gossip content. So, I mean, I don't want it to just be videos and photos and a montage of creativity, all for it to just be bashing or drama all in the comments and that type of thing. I feel like on this channel, there's more than enough of you who have been transparent, open, honest, with your own battles and struggles in the comments. And I'm seeing where the channel is having an impact. I've spoken with people in person. I've been stopped in the store. I have coworkers who, watch the channel, and I'm extremely thankful for everybody. But and that being said, I never want my channel to lose focus of the mission that I really hope to accomplish. And that is that these cases would not happen if we were able to get a better grip and grasp on the behaviors, the human behaviors that lead up to them. And so what you guys have probably noticed is there is a new video that is a new series. It's the Dan Markel murder case here in Tallahassee. I won't go off too much on it, but I do want to share with you because in future Watts videos, you will hear me reference that case. You will see clips from court hearings and trials in that case because the amount and the vast difference between how our prosecuting attorney here in Florida and how the DA in Colorado handled similar cases, it's night and day. And you will see a clear, concise conspiracy. We have a conspiracy in this local case, and we have a conspiracy in the Watts case. You don't believe me? Look at YouTube. Everyone has a conspiracy about what they think happened. There's some really, really big and some really, really small. Well, here in my little small town at the capital city, there was this murder that took place, and come to find out it was a murder for hire, and then the conspiracy just kept going. And so now, something just to kind of share with you is in this case that I'm talking about, there are phone ping testimonies. There are interviews with suspected individuals or, persons of interest, if you will. There are compelling circumstantial evidence in each case. There is a DA shuffle where the former prosecutor did not want to prosecute said family in this case. And then we now have a new one, and man, they've been hammering them out. So now, where one person did not want to charge a family because it was, you know, um, a very well-off, wealthy Miami family, didn't really want to go after them, or obviously you don't want to try something unless you actually feel like you can prove the case, and when you can win your case and get the conviction. But I will say, now that we have a new lineup, our current prosecuting attorney has now 4 convicted, 1 arrested, and 2 unindicted co-conspirators remaining. So the case that you're going to start seeing on my channel, I really hope that those of you who have started with me with Watts will take some time and pay attention to those videos, because very much what I'm going to be showing you is how it's all a choice. It's all a choice. Is there enough to convict Kessinger if she were put on the stand today? I will tell you, I think the reason we have not heard from her is because she knows there is. It's either that, or she has a limited immunity that was given to her. And therefore, I went through in one of the videos and explained it. A limited immunity, depending on which one she has, only pertains to a certain amount of information. So let's say she went into these interviews with law enforcement And they said, okay, we grant you this immunity. It covers anything you say today and tomorrow in these interviews. We can't go after you. We cannot use anything to build a case against you in these interviews. So she goes in and she talks and talks and talks and talks. Well, excuse me. She walks out of there, runs her mouth to a newspaper, or goes back in and talks to law enforcement. If she is no longer protected, or what she is saying, or that particular conversation, the immunity does not pertain to that, she is not protected. And therefore, anything she says outside of that can be used against her. So for many people saying, oh, if she was, then she would be charged, or, you know, there's no deals, there's no this. No, there are. And the case here locally, the Dan Markel case, there was a deal made. There was a deal made with one of the accomplices, and that has essentially snowballed investigation in case after case after case. So it does happen. There is a legal channel and there is a way to go about it. And I really, really hope that you guys will join me for that, because I do think you will enjoy the case itself. You will find it extremely interesting, and then it will leave you scratching your head and going, "Oh my goodness, like why could they not have done this in the Watts case?" Because if they even had half the heart to go after full justice in this case, we would have seen something very, very similar to what we are now seeing in Tallahassee, as opposed to this complete mystery cover up. So again, I have my thoughts and opinions on why her family has reacted and behaved a certain way that has left many of us questioning things. That will be a new series that's coming. So I have not really mentioned it to you guys, but there is a new series of what's coming, and that will essentially be the heart of that series, is the behaviors of both families and why they are acting the way that they are. Um, with that, I think it's important to go ahead and touch on. I don't know enough about the the law or the policy or whatever it was that Frankie Jr., I guess their attorneys just won a case or something. But I guess it kind of goes back to what I was sharing with you about my channel. The only thing I can say as a creator about a lawsuit or a case like that is, from what I have been reading, the issue is not so much people covering the cases. It's when people are just vicious and for no reason. Um, you know, let's just put it out there. If if Shanann had Munchausen's by proxy, if Shanann abused the girls, if Shanann was a covert narcissist, if she was any of these things, and I'm not going to say whether I believe there were or there weren't. Um, the point is if you're creating content and the only thing you're doing is just lashing out and saying she did this and she did that and she did this, well, what's the whole purpose behind that? So eventually, like, what's your purpose behind your content? If your purpose behind the content is just to badger and bully and badmouth a family or a woman who can't defend herself, then yeah, I can 100% see why that lawsuit was needed. If you're creating content where there is a purpose behind it, there is a mission behind it, and it's more so just to be compassionate and say, look, this was a horrible tragedy, but we cannot sugarcoat what she was doing or what he was doing and turn a blind eye to it just because she's no longer here. And I know I have an uphill battle in this Markel case, because this guy was loved and worshiped by this entire community up here. But I am reading court documents and their divorce decrees and all, and it's horrible. But no one wants to touch on it. Everyone is acting like he's this poor victim, can't believe this happened to him. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying by any means that anyone deserved for anything to happen. It's not that. But you cannot keep poking at, you can't poke at a snake, poke at a snake, poke at a snake and expect not to get bit at some point. So that's kind of where I'm trying to pull this channel is I want to get us out of that mindset of constant criticism of Shanann or Chris or Kessinger or the families or why are they acting like this or why are they doing that? Like, let's pull ourselves out of that conversation and say, how can we make an impact on other people to hopefully prevent and avoid these types of cases from ever happening? And I firmly believe that as friends, family members, we have that ability to do that. Sometimes it's just listening. Sometimes it's buffering out a situation. Sometimes it's telling your friends and your family, like, hey, I love you, but let's check you real quick because you're spinning out of control and you're freaking out. But didn't you just do this? And hold each other accountable. Those are the ways that you grow. Those are the ways that you mature and you can make better decisions moving forward. So it's kind of my overview, if you will, for my intro. Um, so with that being said, the Defending Kessinger series, I do want to say, let me take a moment real quick because I see several of you guys here. I do want to say welcome, guys, and I love that you're here. I really appreciate you being here. Donna, thank you so much. And good evening, everybody. If you're joining us, we are just now about to start diving into these videos and the content. So something I do want to share with you is you may have to make your screen bigger, but something I want to share with you is I'm trying to look at my phone too. I posted this poll, excuse me. I posted this poll about the topics that you would like to hear about in the video series. And one of the top ones, of course, was the phone ping. Rightfully so. I 100% understand that one. And I do believe I'm going to save that one for last simply because I think it will ultimately be the best way to wrap up the live tonight. And then we have her clock in, the fact that her clock in time was missing. We have her Google searches. We have I'm trying to read it, it's so small for me. Oh, the pawn the ring comment and the battery lyrics. So I kind of want to touch on a couple of these. The phone ping one, like I said, I'll leave that one for the last one. Just so you guys have somewhat of a visual, I think I'm going to play a couple of the videos, and as it's playing, if there's something that comes to mind, I will definitely share with you my thoughts on it. I have one thing to ask you guys, and that is in the comment section, are there any questions pertaining to the Defending Kessinger series that you know right off the top of your head that you're like, hey, Ashley, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and drop it in the comments below, like in the live chat, and let's go ahead and address some of those. So if you have a question, put 3 question marks at the beginning. So like, it'll look like this. Hang on. All right. So if you're going to post a question, use the 3 questions at the beginning, and then that way when it's in the live chat, I can see it and it'll grab my attention. Okay. So like during the video while it's playing out, if something stands out to you and you're like, ooh, let me ask about this, drop it in the comments because I would love to take this time and really share with you like where my thought process was, what I was thinking at the time, and all the things. So let's go with All right, let's start with this video. I want to double check the audio on it. If it starts messing up too much, like I said, I'll let it play through and then I'll just kind of talk you through it. But if there's anything pertinent that stands out to you, please don't hesitate. Drop it in the live chat and I will do my best to make sure I present it on the screen and we talk about it. Okay. All right. So here we go.
Watts can be heard mumbling to his father she wasn't supposed to be there. As many of us have done over the years, we continue to ask who he was talking about. When the question remains on its own, there are possibilities. However, when you couple it with the other quote, I don't want to protect her, suddenly it takes a dramatic shift. Let's look at each one of them. The immediate thought is, of course, Shanann. The only way I can see, quote unquote, she wasn't supposed to be there, referencing Shanann, is if, in fact,
Donna, your question is, what do you think about when CW said, I don't know why she was there? Could he be talking about NK being there? I do believe that's who he's talking about. I believe that for several reasons because, we'll get back to the phone ping, but the phone ping alone puts her there. And given the phone towers or the cell towers nearby, and I'm going to see if it's not, I don't want too much lag time in the live, but if I can get, I wish I had it. If I can get the testimony from the Markel case that I'm talking about, where it shows it may be in here. I may have already added it to this video, but he explains the cell towers and the proximity and when they'll pick them up. And I believe that, yes, she was there. Now, her story about why she was there, I believe that is where she gets sticky. And I don't know if it's because she was scared to death that if she put herself there, then she was going to be implicated and potentially face some charges, or if it was, because you have to keep in mind, like, we have to remember, no matter how much she's been villainized, she was a 30-year-old single woman who was being told by a man who was apparently rocking her world sexually and being told by him that she was the best thing that ever happened to him and that he was done with his wife and done with his children. I mean, that's the story that they all say. That's what they all say. Um, but you, so we have to remember her as a person and think of it in those terms. So if she's a 30-year-old single woman, she's never had any kids, and there's a different maturity level once you have kids. You start to think about and pay attention to more things than you typically would if you're single, and no kids. But so she shows up. Let's just say she showed up and she's like, okay, I'm gonna talk to Shanann that morning. Well, she shows up and then Shanann's not there. And then she's like, okay, well, no big deal. But then it is a big deal because Shanann, at the time that her truck is still there, should have been up moving about, and she wasn't. So, was she in her truck? Did she see him doing something he wasn't supposed to? Did she show up and she was standing on the back porch and she saw it through the back sliding glass door and couldn't unsee it? Um, it could be that. But the problem is the DA has allowed the public to continue to think that she had more to do with it. And that is wholeheartedly on the state of Colorado. And the fact that Kessinger has not sued the hell out of the state of Colorado is beyond me. Because I'm going to tell you, if I had nothing to do with this, nothing, if you had absolutely nothing to do with this murder, like with these murders, and you saw something or you were there and you were trying to explain it, or even if you helped, like if you helped, my one of my big theories is that she was there, and because he recognized and saw that she was there, he was like, crap, but by the way, can you help me? Like, here, take these ice chests. We're just going to load them up, take them out to Survey for me. It's no big deal. Take them out to Survey. I'll be there, and I'll handle it from there. Like, not even knowing what's in the ice chest. If that happened, then, or if Shanann was put in her SUV out the back door, we'll never know because the dogs never were taken to search her vehicle. Her vehicle was never searched. Um, if there were going to be bodily fluids, if there were going to be any scent or anything like that, it would have been in the back of that Forerunner. It was not in Chris's truck. The dogs did not alert to Chris's truck, and the stench of death does not go away that quickly, not as warm as it was that day. So, my thoughts on it is, yeah, I believe she was there. The explanation as to why and what she was doing there, I don't know that we'll ever get that answer. I hope one day she feels free enough to talk about it, but I don't know that I don't know that we'll ever hear that. So, I do want to say that this video series was extremely difficult for me to produce and edit because it really forced me um, to look at it through a different lens. And I know some people, it's not a fan favorite for a lot of people because they're like just hell bent on the fact that she's guilty and that there was such a major cover up in X, Y, and Z. But that's kind of the problem. That's kind of the problem with society, with these trial by the media, trial by the public, is people just pop off with their opinions and they're not really thinking about the fact that whether you like someone or not, they're still human. And if in fact she had nothing to do with it, then she is another victim. And if all these channels want to do is keep on with like, oh, I'm sure it was her, or I'm sure she had something else to do with it. I mean, you kind of have to start thinking along the lines of, what type of company do you want to keep? Because I sure as heck want to be around people who are critical thinkers and who are saying, you know what? I don't know, something doesn't add up here. What is it? And I mean, I will be straight up with you. I still believe that the girls met their fate at the hands of a woman. And I've yet to be able to back off of that. And I've said it from the jump. I do not believe that that was Shanann. But I will tell you that the more I dove into this series, my opinions of that, while it's still rather firm, it made me take an even deeper look into Chris. And I think that's where her family's been fighting and screaming and squawking for so long and so loud, is because they feel like everyone is looking at Chris like he is just this cookie cutter person, and they feel like Shanann keeps being attacked and no one's really like holding Chris accountable. But everyone is kind of the part of the problem when it comes to that because everybody painted him to be, this person who never had any issues. And that to me is the biggest red flag. That, we talk about gray flags, red flags on this channel. The fact that not a single person has come out and said anything negative about Chris Watts. To me, that speaks volumes and volumes of covert narcissism since he was a teenager and young. And that's scary. And I say that because when you've lived with one, when you've been abused by one, I I can just tell you, they're good. They're good. They master their craft and they're good. And in my opinion, Kessinger was a supply. She was that next supply, and it was already secured before Shanann was ever out of the picture. Um, so Donna, that's a little bit of a long-winded response, but that was my thoughts on that. At least to this point, which brings us to, I think, I'm sure this is NK snuck into the house in the basement, came up and surprised Shanine and Chris, and that's why he said, I don't know why she was there, and then all hell broke loose. I do. That is very much a plausible theory that I've had as well. I share that one with you as well. That Chris told her, hey, Shanine's getting home late, or the plane's been delayed. And I don't know that Kessinger bought that. I think she thought maybe he was lying to her. And so what does she do? She just drove over there. And you guys have to think, like, people are like, oh, she must be crazy. Please, please, have any of you watched any kind of TV, and have any of you ever spent any time on Instagram? Y'all already know girls are going to be looking crap up on Facebook. They're going to know who you are, who your mama is, what her maiden name is. And if you like, is it healthy? No, it's not healthy at all. But the fact that people act so surprised, it's like, have you been living under a rock lately? Like the amount of access that people have to you with social media, with Google, with anything. If someone wants to find something out, they can do it. And for Chris Watts to tell Kessinger, everything's fine, it's okay, like, we're gonna have that conversation, or she's moving out this week, yada yada, and then suddenly it's like, oh, her plane's late, and Kessinger shows up. She goes over, goes in through the basement because that's typically where he sleeps. And like I said in the one video, she says she hears the TV, and down in the basement there's no TV. So if she came up out of the basement and heard the TV, she was trying to figure out where the TV sounds were coming from, and as she comes up, Shanann walks in the front door. That that would be all hell breaking loose, because no way is a married woman going to walk in her house at almost 2 o'clock in the morning and see some other woman coming up out of the basement. And that kind of takes us into the next topic that I wanted to share with you guys. Let me pause this. I'm going to keep letting the video play, but I'm going to like mute the sound.
Shania arrived.
So the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is oh my goodness, I just completely lost it. Hey Roxanne. So I really believe that she came up from the basement. Shanann walks in, and it's like, who the hell are you? Because you got to think, she was already knew something was off. She was already like completely emotionally spent and exhausted over that weekend. And her friends have said the same thing. Like, she spent that whole weekend reading like she spent that whole reading a marriage book. And sorry, I'm trying to change it up for you, but she spent all that time with the marriage book and reading into it. And so so there it goes. The other topic that I want to talk to you guys about that I mentioned in one of these videos, um and that was simply this whole idea and concept of an open marriage, or being separated but living together. And I'm just curious because I'm going to get a sip of my drink and take a deep breath for a moment. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this? Because let me propose it this way. We have seen in we've seen in Shanann's nightstand. I mean, clearly we're gonna keep, I mean, we're all adults here, because I always very specifically say these things are not for children. Um we see in her nightstand, I mean, she has toys. We see that they talk about being extremely active and having a rather healthy sex life and things like that. This whole, and I've said it in several videos, this whole concept that Shanann was like this vanilla person, that she and Chris just had this boring sex life, and so he ran off to go find some new girl to like hook up with, or whatever. I don't really buy that. I'm not going to say that after being married for any extended period of time, or hell, even dating for a certain period of time, that you don't get, you have to keep things spicy and things differently or whatever. Just, um, I don't want to dive too deep down into that rabbit hole. But the reason I mention it is because if you are in your 30s, if you're single, if you've been on any dating app, the amount of married men on those dating apps is unreal. It genuinely is. And some of them have photos with their wives on these dating apps. And the wife is off doing her thing, and the husband's off doing his thing, or they meet and mingle with other people and then they all want to bring them home or something. I don't know. Now, do I understand it? I could never imagine that. That would be like, oh, as a nurse, it's just like a complete freaking nightmare. Um, it's like it's like an emergency of all different types of proportions. But it does happen. And it happens. You see it with preachers, you see it in small towns, you see it with politicians. It's extremely weird. I say weird. I try not to be like that. It's not my cup of tea. Let's put it that way. Um, but for some people, that's what they do. And it's also not something that is openly accepted with society. I mean, it's no different than, it's only recently gotten to the point where, like, if two girls are kissing or two guys are kissing, no one really bats an eye anymore, because it's kind of essentially become the norm. Like, it's not as taboo as it once was. So now it's kind of out there in the open. Um, but I question it. I question it because of March 2018. Um, Taking it back to the leopard dress, taking it back to that trip. Um, was it something that Shanann and Chris had talked about, like Chris Watts had talked about? And I don't know, I still don't buy it. I still don't buy it, but you guys can see, like, I literally have tried to go down every rabbit hole with this thing, from the sense of, or the context of, like, Kessinger just really not knowing or not understanding, like, that he was saying that, because she says the word, she uses the words separated, divorced, um, interchangeably, and that's not the same thing. Hey, Stephanie, um, someone being divorced is not the same as someone being separated. Someone being separated is not the same as someone pissed off at their spouse and living in the basement because they got kicked out of the out of the master bedroom. That's not the same thing. So she keeps acting like he's been separated for so long and that his divorce is almost final. And she just goes back and forth on that. That, to me, is a red flag, because which is it? You know, you either knew him much longer than what you've been letting on, and he's been telling you, we're separated, we're separated, we're separated. And then now finally the divorce is almost final. But if we're supposed to believe the narrative of what she says, then that relationship only started for 6 weeks. So 6 weeks is not a long time. And she says that in one of the videos, is that she's known him much longer than that. So that's what took me back to North Carolina in one of these videos. Um, so I did have to go and kind of dive a little bit temporarily into the, could it have been like a swingers gone wrong, open marriage gone wrong, that type of thing. Because the whole question was, why was she looking them up in 2017? That was something that if she were on trial, she would have to answer to that. Like if she were to take the stand in her own defense, she would have to answer to that. No way she'd get around that. Like, what was your purpose of looking them up in 2017? And the only plausible explanation for that is that they crossed paths at the hospital, that they crossed paths when training for like that. What was it, like an Ironman, like a muscle man type of competition? And Donna mentions like possibly meeting him at the gym. That's kind of where I think it happened. I think that because you have to keep in mind, Chris moved out to Colorado ahead of Shanann. He was out there working and it was just him. So he'd go to work. I don't want to even be stereotypical because girls do it too. If you're single and you don't have any kids, because let's just say, the kids were not there. I mean, they weren't married yet. So he was single or engaged, no kids, and working, trying to save up money to buy a house. So the one outlet he gives himself is the gym. So you go to work, you go to the gym, you get a good workout in, you go home, chill. If Kessinger was in fact at that gym as well, I mean, guys, come on, I see it all the time. I see it all the time. And that would have been an easy conversation to start up. So I think the gym is very feasible and plausible. The question is, do y'all believe that he actually introduced Shanann to Kessinger? I'm interested on your thoughts on that. Drop a yes or no in the live chat. Do you think that Chris Watts actually introduced Shanann Watts to Nicole Kessinger?
It's so sad to read or hear about the amount of people whose quote unquote friends wouldn't act the same way. I'd hate to be friends with some of your friends. I'm beyond thankful that my bestie is one that will show up without hesitation. She would ask questions and she would have torn into Watts immediately upon his return. It's my personal opinion that at this time, Atkinson was already sick over what may have happened to her friend, that she couldn't wrap her head around everything else that was happening that morning. We may never know the truth about if Atkinson entered the home before law enforcement is seen at the home, but it would certainly explain a lot about their reactions. It is possible that if this occurred, then she wasn't supposed to be there, and I don't want to protect her could apply to these events. More so, in my opinion, would be the other Nikki, the Kessinger.
It validates things that we know. I'm not gonna come out and tell you that if you tell me something today, we'll validate it with your text messages, whether it's the ones we have now or the ones you're gonna give us. Certainly.
If you want to go get him.
I want you to read this.
Of all the theories we've heard and discussed regarding Kessinger, the one that would explain the most would be the following. Watts and Kessinger end their 111-minute phone call. Kessinger, out of her normal behavior, doesn't call Chris that morning. Keep in mind, we've had a track record of her calling him literally just about every morning during that summer, and then goes ghost on him the morning of the murders. Instead, she chooses to drive by the house. Element of surprise, indicated by the phone ping that morning. Surely he's gone by now, and she would see that Shanann and the girls are awake and moving about inside. Maybe this is the perfect time in her mind to confront.
I do want to say, it was a thought that came to me. I see your responses, but my thoughts on the phone ping are, and this is this is where this local case is really like it's challenging me to um call a spade and see things for what they are. So my question is, ev- I've seen it in comments before on like ATS News and CDT. Like I've been in their lives for years, and I've seen it come across in the comments several times where people feel like um, people share the opinion that she kept her phone turned off and then accidentally turned it on or powered it on or something like that. And my originally, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But if she had no idea that something was going to happen that morning, then why would it matter if her phone had pinged or turned on or not? Does that make sense? She would have had to have known that something bad was going to happen, or else that phone ping would not have been a problem. What are your thoughts on that?
In and tell her about the affair. Only to her surprise, there isn't anyone awake, home, no movement inside. She panics and calls Jim. It's a short call, so maybe no answer, or maybe it just went to voicemail. She immediately turns her phone off and drives out to Survey. This results in no clock in time that morning, yet because she's in charge of safety, she could easily explain why she opted to drive out to the site to inspect the work to make sure that it was complete. I mean, keep in mind, the alert, I believe, came out like that Friday, and they waited the entire weekend to get out there for first thing Monday morning to repair it. So, if in fact it had actually been a really bad leak or really bad issue, that thing had Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night to get worse. Did Chris tip her off in that 111-minute phone call to something sinister? Meanwhile, Chris is digging the hole for Shanann, jamming out to the song Battery by Metallica because the silence out there would have been deafening, especially with the flood of thoughts and reliving images in your mind. Kessinger drives up without Chris noticing, maybe observes from afar. If he was indeed playing Metallica out there, the sound would have traveled. I've always questioned why so randomly Kessinger would ask him about lyrics to a song like that. It's possible she may have heard it but couldn't make it out. So she asked him, and then the lyrics speak for themselves. I wish we had Anadarko footage from the parking lot to show when she actually arrived at work that day, if at all. It's possible she went back home and tried to unsee what she may or may not have seen that morning. Then once the news broke about them missing, she chatted with Chris a little during the day and then called her father. If not immediately, she called once they had.
So I have to share with you guys, like when I made this video, even watching it back now, and I mean, the thought still comes to mind, and that is if you saw something that morning and you were safe, like you were away from him. So let's just say, for instance, my theory of she shows up, he's rushing around the house and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you like so flustered? Like, isn't Shanann home or whatever?" And he tells her, "No, she didn't come home," or something like that. Or, "Yeah, she's gone with the girls," whatever. And then he's like, "Hey, can I load this stuff in your car and you just drive it out to Surrey because I'm gonna be late?" And her naive, stupid, being stupid and naive as a young woman, goo over this man. It's like, sure, whatever. Puts the stuff in the car, not thinking anything of it, goes out and then bears witness to him, whether it's digging the grave or disposing of the girls. She sees it. I'll explain to you why I really believe she saw something that morning. Um, and then she goes home. Well, once you get home, then you know you're safe, right? Like, it's not like if she's in his home and she knows something happened, like, you're now in the home with the murderer. So, safety says you got to get out. She's no longer with him, she's at home. If you're at home, wouldn't the first phone call you make be a freaking one to the police department? Or wouldn't you go back to Shanann's house just to see if she got up? See, to me, that's where if she were to have circled back to the house just to like see if Shanann and the girls were up or something, like there's just some missing pieces that cannot be explained away. That it's frustrating. I do want to address, I saw something up here. Um, Jody mentioned like when law enforcement first got to the house and they're knocking on the door and you cannot hear Dieter. Now, I agree with you. My friends have one of those dogs. My son is begging me for one of those dogs, and I absolutely will not get one of those dogs for that reason. Like they bark at everything. They're always barking. And it's very interesting that you cannot hear him initially, but then like once uh the police come away from the house a little bit and they're kind of like hanging out and lingering in the driveway while they're waiting on Chris, then they go back over and suddenly you can hear the dog. So it does. That has always perplexed me and it's always made me believe that someone was in that house and they needed time to get out. And once they could get out, then no one was holding on to the dog. And therefore, you know, I don't know. I'd love to interview, and I love dogs. And so I guess this is why I would totally interview someone who specializes in like dog training or dog trauma and therapy, is because I'm sure if Dieter witnessed something like that, like my dog is just like a toddler. I mean, he's just like a kid. He knows when I'm sad, when I'm sick, when my kids are sick. He knows when one of the kids are not home. And he knows when something's wrong. I can tell you that my dog can listen to Dieter barking, like when law enforcement is there and they're collecting all of the evidence and putting it in the bags and all that, and Dieter's like running around yipping the whole time. My dog, I've said it for years, even so my dog is a Catahoula. Um, he is our baby, but I will tell you, he turned 5 years old this year, and he has reacted the same way over the last 4 years that I've played, 4.5 years that I've played these videos. When he hears Dieter, he will stop whatever he is doing and he will come to me, and then he will go to both of my kids, make sure they're okay, and then he will come back to me and he lays down right next to me. And then he is like either whimpering, and then there's some tone or some shift or something that Dieter does in his video. One of these days I'm just going to record it because it's insane how he does the same thing all the time. But there's something that Dieter barks, there's like a pitch or something that Dieter barks, and when he does, my dog will sit straight up, and he is like on guard at that point. And it's, I have to like stop the recording and console my dog and let him know that like everything's okay, that I'm just watching something on YouTube. I mean, yes, I'm that pet owner that talks to my dog like he 3000% understands every word that I'm saying. Um but it's very interesting to me, the dog dynamic in Dieter. Um that's something I would love to do. I may do a video on that. I've been holding off on doing it for a while. I quit playing that video specifically because I didn't want to traumatize my own dog. Um, but I always found that just very interesting. Yeah, I think they sense trauma. They do. And like for example, like Dieter love Shanann and the girls, I mean, and those dogs, that's kind of the thing, like they're raised around, like the babies come home from the hospital, they're raised around those girls, or he was raised around those girls. So he's acclimated to them. He can tolerate them and all their craziness. And that that's what is beautiful about animals. And I don't know, it would be very interesting. And I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but it would be extremely interesting to do a video and potentially talk to someone about like dogs sensing trauma and that type of thing. I know like with canines, they train them to pick up on that scent because, like in the event of an attack, your body does secrete a hormone that the dogs can pick up on. But I'm really curious if there's something about like different dog barks and pitches that demonstrate distress. So, hey, Stephen, welcome in. Donna, I firmly believe that, wholeheartedly believe that. Um, let's keep on going. I'm going to scroll back up and see if I missed a question or not, okay?
Emails from me in a dark though. Having warning, some form of immunity would have found me in that interview without fear of being prosecuted. Full immunity, especially. Witness protection would have only been granted if there were active threats to her directly related to the case. Meaning, it would have had to come from someone directly involved in the case. This does not include the media. Let me just say that again. It does not include the media. It does not include YouTube. It does not include the newspapers, reporters, anyone out here with a random opinion. It does not include those people. The only people that witness protection would be funded and approved to defend her and protect her from would be individuals that are directly related to the Watts case. Period. There's no room for emotion with that. It's the only explanation I've been able to come up with that does not directly involve her in the crimes. This Defending Kessinger series has been an effort to highlight the possibilities that she wasn't as actively involved.
Stephanie, thank you so much for your support, and I really appreciate that super chat. I want to say it again because now we have more people in here, but this Defending Kessinger series was not an easy one to produce. You guys, for the most of, even before I had my own channel, I was, I did an interview or a collaboration with CDT and ATS where I was talking about stalking and case studies on it and women, unaliving children and how they do that, the manner they do that. And still to this day, I don't believe the children were unalived by a man. I don't. I'm still working on that. I still do research. Like when something comes across my computer or my desk, I dive back into it just to really like just try to process and look back through everything. But like I said, I will tell you, I do not believe that Shanian did anything to her daughters. I really do not. Um, but I do believe the girls met their end at the hands of a woman. And so doing this series has been extremely difficult. But going off of what we have, not what we think, not not our emotions. And if you ever listen to a jury's instructions, you have to go off of only what was admissible in court. It so like if we were sitting on a jury, you would only be given what was cleared through like the discovery of evidence. Not everything gets let into a trial. And so then you have to make your decision based off of what you're given in trial. And I don't know if it was on purpose by the DA to set things up the way that they did. I really hope so. I hope and pray that it's one of those situations where the DA knows that maybe he wasn't competent enough to try this and win it. And so he gave her just enough immunity to essentially hang herself metaphorically. And hopefully one day when she does decide to speak out, then they'll be able to get her. And I go back and forth on it. It's either that or it is nothing, guys. Either it is that or she's innocent. And that's a hard one to, that's a hard pill to swallow because, like I said, I firmly believe the girls were unalived by a woman. And the only thing that would even remotely implicate or point to Chris in unaliving them in that manner is the fact that he is just straight up a puss, for lack of better words. I mean, he was like the girl in the marriage. And for someone to take on the woman role, so to speak, I don't like, and I hate to say that because I don't like the role reversals and I don't like the gender um biases, but the only way that that makes sense is one was medicated and the other one was manual. Um, or was it just a complete freaking accident? Like that brings me to like the next thing I have on my paper, and that is the pro bars. So in one of these videos for the Defending Kessinger series, I mentioned that Shanann's friend says, um, that one of Shanann's friends says, look in the garbage can. If there are pro bars in there, she had one every morning. So if there are pro bars in there, then she was awake and in there that morning. And when you look in the evidence photos, guys, there's two pro bars. There's two pro bars and what looks like an additional pregnancy test. Let me see. I'm not gonna be able to see chat for just a minute. I'm gonna see if I can find that photo that I have of like I have a photo of the trash can. Let me just see if I can get to it real quick. Basically, in the trash can, you can see, so Shanann tells us, or shows us, I should say, in the pregnancy video, you hear Chris say, does pink mean girls? Well, I did an actual video on this. Chris says, does pink mean girls? And Shanann's like, no, it's just a test. And he's like, but pink means girls. And she says, no, it's just a test. So she's trying to explain to this ding dong that, just because the test itself is pink does not mean that it's a girl. Um, and why does this matter? Well, because when you look at the evidence photo of the trash can, you see a blue top that looks and it looks like a drugstore bag. Have any of you guys been to like the mom and pop type drugstores where you get, oh, I guess even CVS does it. Like you get like a little paper bag for, like you get a paper bag for your prescriptions and whatnot. Have you guys seen that? So like in the trash can, that's what it looks like. It looks like it is a paper bag that is holding what I think is another pregnancy test. So, um, all right, I'm gonna play this with some audio so you can continue to watch through it. I really want to find this photo because you guys, the pro bars, this bag, pregnancy test, that stuff to me makes like that's important. And I really wish I had pulled this out earlier, but I'm gonna grab it. So continue watching this. I'll be right
In the Defending Kessinger series, I have shared with you some insight I gained from local law enforcement. The clarity on what is required for some form of immunity, especially full immunity, has solidified, in my opinion, the direct involvement, or at the very least, presence of Kessinger that August 13th morning in 2018. Whether you believe Kessinger showed up that night prior to Shenean walking through the front door, or you believe that Kessinger showed up after Watts left, both would give rise to the fact that Kessinger would have been present at the scenes of a crime, possibly witnessed the crimes directly, or what many suspect, that she was directly involved on some level. Before you argue that if she committed any of these murders, then she wouldn't have been given immunity, keep in mind the case of Karla Homolka. This woman was granted full immunity to give up her husband, and later on it was discovered the murder and torture of her own sister at her own hands, laughing and engaging in the murders, was recorded on video with audio, yet she still walks free today. And until the recent documentaries aired, she'd been teaching at an elementary school in Canada. Think about that. Because they cannot reverse the immunity. While the arms of justice are long, some remain just outside its grasp. But as we are seeing in the Markel case, that I'll be covering more on this channel, that long arm of justice just may come back swinging from another direction. Personally, I don't believe anyone else will ever be charged in the Watts case. Kessinger will never face charges with regards to Shenean, Bella, Cece, or Nico. The only death she will come to terms with is the death of who she was prior to meeting Chris Watts. She has managed to slip into the abyss of the American people and continues to live life free from the captivity of a prison. Some allude to the fact that she may be a prisoner in her own mind. However, I don't know how much of that I believe. The police interview sessions speak volumes about her mindset during that time. They speak loudly, in my opinion, as to who she was as a person. The only prayer we have is that she's grown from that moment in her life and hopefully into a better version of herself. The only way she will ever serve time will be in the horrendous event that another life is lost due to her involvement, and justice swings back swift and hard to compensate for all the lives lost because of her. I'm not going to conclude this series officially. In the event anything further comes to light that would defend Kessinger, I'll keep the series open-ended. My final thoughts is of 2023. Kessinger gilling us seeing the.
Okay, so I did find the photo, guys. I'm waiting on it to upload, and then I'm going to share the screen over so you guys can see the image. So I wish I could find the video. It's a really short video that I did, but I did it covering different pregnancy tests, and I want to say it's in one of the Hidden Motives videos, which is way too long to try to find it right now. But like Clear Blue Easy has a blue top. Any of the, like if you go to Walmart and you get like the Equate brands of pregnancy tests, they have the blue top. And why does this even matter? Well, it matters because, let's see. Like it matters because why would Shenean have another pregnancy test in the trash can? And you knew that she here. Oh, this is perfect. I found it. Look, this is perfect. And this is published by the New York Times. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. All right, guys, ready? I'm going to see about sharing the screen. Hold on. Share screen. Boom. All right. You guys see this? Okay, so to the far right, you have like some of those like just testing strips. A lot of times those are like the little dipsticks that we use in the doctor's office when we are giving a pregnancy test at the doctor's office. Now, the middle one that you see where it's a white handle and it's pink at the bottom, those lines come up and they're pink. Um, and so you'll come up and it'll have two pink lines on those. And it really doesn't matter if you can use first response, you can use a different dollar, like the dollar store ones. They're still going to come up with pink lines. The only ones that really came up with blue, like this is what I think about when Chris says, when he holds up the stick in the pregnancy video and he says pink means girls, and he's just retard, like, I don't even like that word. He's lacking brain cells in many departments, clearly. But when he picks it up and he says over and over and over again, pink means girls, I believe that the test that Shanian used was probably one of these. It was like an early response, first response, where you get a result like 5 days sooner than what you typically would. That makes a little bit of sense. Okay. Now let's exit out of here. Then you come to, where is it? The clear blue easy ones. And these have blue lines. They have blue lines, or you get the digital one that literally spells it out for you and tells you that you're pregnant. There's no guessing in that. You're either pregnant or you're not. Even the ones with like the purple caps show up pink. Do you guys see that? The little lines are actually pink when you see that. So this to me is what this looks like. Now let me pull, I've got the actual open. Bear with me, guys. I'm learning how to operate this laptop. Trying to figure out how to see it. I have the photo of the garbage can that was taken in evidence. I'm trying to literally pull it up for you and like blow it up so you can actually see it. Let's see, download, then that's not it. Bear with me, guys. I appreciate your patience. I really do. I try to have all this stuff set up, but this was an angle I didn't know that we would hit on. But I'm glad that we are. Now I just have to find it. So I just saved it. And I do want to get back around to your questions because I saw where several of you had some questions too. Oh my goodness gracious, this should not be this difficult. I've not really had this issue. All right, so we see the blue. Now let me come over here. Let me see. Remove this. So this is a good question. The only issue that I can see with that would just simply be it would be like all of the unknowns of how the oil would have affected their little bodies. Like that, it's one thing we know what it's like if it's submerged in water. We know what it's like if it's submerged in dirt. The fact that we don't have more details in the autopsy, I will tell you those autopsies are incomplete. Those that documentation is incomplete. I say incomplete. It is either purposefully withheld, and I do believe that's what it is. I believe that we are not seeing the full autopsy reports for a reason, just like we are not seeing Nico's DNA test for a reason. We're not seeing anything pertaining to the pregnancy with Shanann for a reason. And all of these things really raise a lot of questions. A lot of questions, very and respectfully so, but they raise a lot of questions. I'm trying to figure out why I cannot open this picture. Guys, I have it in Google Drive. If anyone knows how to like see this blessed thing in Google Drive, I'm not understanding. Stop sharing. Normally I double click it and it just pops right up, and this is being a pain. It's not wanting to let's see. Bear with me, guys. All right, let me scroll through the questions real quick too, because I don't want you, if you have to jump off, I don't want you to leave and feel like I didn't answer your questions. Let me see. Stephanie, were you mentioning, you were talking about the whole like defending Kessinger series? I know whenever I first posted it, people were like, what? Are you crazy? I do agree. It's the not knowing and then wanting the full justice. I agree, Donna. I really do not believe that it was Shanann. I don't. Um, I will say, so let me just say this. If, and it is a huge if, I do not believe it, but if it was Shanann, it would explain a lot of the behaviors that we've seen in this case, in my opinion. But I know that I'm not ready to go down that road any further because I've been down it before. I know that her family is not wanting to be down that road or even remotely consider that. And I know that millions of people who literally just absolutely will not consider that. I feel like there's too much pointing to other people for it to be that. And that's probably the greatest defense I have to why I believe that it was not Shanann that hurt her girls. I don't, because I feel like there's far too much evidence and information out there that points to other people than it does to Shanann. But I will tell you that her family, as much as they love her, have not done her any justice or any good with the way that they have acted publicly. And it's not to shame them, it's not to I mean, hell, my opinion means nothing when it comes to the grief and the hurt that her family has felt. And I will tell you, I know that um, many creators come on and a lot of this is AI, guys, like the artificial intelligence crap that they've got out there. And I will tell you, those things irritate me to no end because they just throw crap together. And yeah, they can produce and promote videos that look really, really good, but they're not even talking about anything that we don't already know. And there is a huge difference between being behind a keyboard and never taking a moment to go drive to where she once stood. Um, I try to do that, and that's why I'm very selective. That's why I stayed on the Watts case as long as I have, and why the next case that I'll talk about is the Markel case because I can freely go here in town, and I actually frequent a lot of the places that he once did, and it brings it home. It makes it real, and I feel like in order to really have an impact or for it to really make a difference, you have to see it as a person. Like, these are people. This is not just a Netflix documentary. And I really think that's where, unfortunately, we lose a lot of the truth in this case, is because so many on both sides have felt the need to defend and deflect so much that it almost camouflages the real, like, issues within the entire case altogether. Um, just my little side story on that. I do believe there's a reason why they act the way they do. I do believe that she knows more. I do question if, in fact, she was pregnant. I do believe, I do believe that she. All right, so here's the thing. Let's go back to this comment. I think she was pregnant and had his baby. My question to you is, what this will be like, I think we can wrap it up here, and then we may have to do a part 2 with the defending Kessinger live, but what do you think that Chris Watts meant when he said, "I'm still a father"? He told his dad, "I'm still a father." What are your thoughts on that?
Hey guys.
Anybody? I'm looking, hang on. Maybe. See this right here? I've thought this too. Maybe Kessinger brought it over that morning or that night to show Chris and Shanann. And then all hell broke loose. Because again, how are you, another woman, going to walk into another woman's house and tell her that you're pregnant with her husband's baby and she's pregnant with her husband's baby?
Potentially even more. Something he said did not sit well with Kessinger. Imagine this. They are having a difference in opinion on that phone call on what's to happen next or what are the next steps going to be for their relationship, or especially regarding Shanann and their marriage. She's on her way home, or, whether or not the flight delay was relayed or not. But the point is Shanann's coming home, and now what's coming next for Kessinger and Chris? So he's telling her, don't worry, we've got this, and everything is going to be all right. And then in the same sentence, telling her about the flight delay for Shanann. I kind of feel like this is what happened. And again, this is my speculation of that 111-minute phone call because, of course, we're told that neither one of them conveniently know anything or remember anything about that phone call. However, I do believe that he told Kessinger about the delay. And she didn't believe him. And that, to me, is what ultimately prompts her actions moving forward. In any affair, trust is already limited given the committed person is already living a.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I tried to like chewing in this microphone. Maybe he was just saying that he's still a father to make himself feel better to his dad. I'll tell you, initially, that's what I thought. Do I believe that Kessinger was pregnant? I think it's questionable. Um, do I think it was Chris Watts? No. Um, I think something that's always stood out to me was how Kessinger's Kessinger tells law enforcement that Chris Watts, the whole thing with the condoms. Have you guys heard about that? Like it's in Discovery. It's in her paper that she wrote to the detective. She makes mention not only of looking up the expiration dates of the condoms, but she blames Shanann and says that Shanann did not like to get messy, and that's why he still had the condoms. Well, if you're single, you're 30, you're sexually active with someone, I'd hope you're using protection. Um, the whole jab of she didn't like to get messy, I don't think that that was necessarily her. And I say this because yes, she was at home. She was at home all day. Yes. Um, Chris was at work. Yes. But have any of you ever been married to a man that would raise absolute hell if the house was not clean when he got home? Did you have a father like that? A grandfather like that? Was an ex-husband like that? And I say ex because I pray to God that you don't have to live with that every single day. But I do believe a lot of Shanann's practices were due to what was happening behind closed doors. I very firmly believe that. Um, do I think the baby, if, again, if Kessinger was indeed pregnant, do I believe that it is Chris Watts' baby? No, I don't. And I say no, I don't, because I believe Chris was using condoms with Kessinger. And I think Kessinger, if she got pregnant because she was hooking up with Jim, Tom, Paul, or whoever else was, in her Rolodex of F boys. And oh, it's this one shows the pro bars. Okay, so hold on. Um, and I don't believe I I'll throw this out there. I believe that Chris's statement of I'm still a father had to do with naming Nico. I don't think it had anything to do. I don't think Kessinger was pregnant with his kid. I don't think he has another kid out there. I think I'm still a father was a comment made to his dad because I believe Chris Watts named Nico. And I know her family has said no, they chose it or Shanann chose. There is no evidence whatsoever of Shanann ever mentioning the name Nico. Nowhere. For 5 years before all the Facebook posts started getting delayed or deleted, there's not been any indication of the name Nico coming out for that baby. And I had to do some digging and I need to produce it on like I may just do it in a post. I'm still learning, guys, so please forgive me with the how long it takes me to get things out. Um I need to look it up. So I have several screenshots on my phone. I may make it a short or something just so y'all can see it. Several screenshots on my phone. Nico is a very gender neutral name. Nico or Niko, it's not really like Spanish where there's like a masculine and a feminine. There is, but there isn't. Like Nico is rather gender neutral. Um, the that's really like, I'm pretty firm on that belief and that thought. Like, I really wish her family would do an interview with like me. That's not like Dr. Phil, or not anything like absolutely like outlandish and out there and fake and phony. Like, I really wish I could sit down with them. Like, I would literally drive to North Carolina and go sit down with her family. Um, but because I do believe that even though he essentially confessed or signed this plea deal, if you will, the line, "I'm still a father," rings out the same as "Daddy No" does to me. Like, "Daddy No" or "No Daddy" sounds more like he was handing her off to somebody, um, more than anything, at least to me. And that's just from my perspective of being a mother and, raising children of my own. Um, it's very common, especially for people to say, "That's my child. I'm still their mother. I'm still their father." Children, God forbid, parents have to outlive their children. It's still their daughter. They're still a mother. How many children do you have? I'm pretty sure Sandy says two. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't just say one because Shanann's in heaven. I'm sure that she answers with she has two children. Um, and that's what kind of makes me think about that. That's my thoughts. I haven't really shared that openly with people, but I do believe as of right now that um I believe very much that Chris Watts named Nico. And I believe that he was that much of a narcissist, like a covert narcissist. And people are like, "No, he wasn't." Yes. If you've ever if you've ever lived with one and been with one, and you see it. I'm not saying Shanann was a saint. I'm saying he is, oh my gosh, he is like grade A up there. And I think he got off too much in that interview by talking about Kessinger. Like, even the detective had to reel him back in and refocus him back to Shanann. Um, he doesn't speak poorly of Shanann because, in my opinion, he gets to have them both. Shanann is forever ingrained in his head that that's his wife, and he gets to live out his days in prison fantasizing about the woman that was his fantasy girl as well. So, I mean, in his twisted, warped illusion of a mind, he gets them both. And I I hope I'm wrong. I'll tell you that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's absolutely freaking miserable sitting in there. But I don't know that I do, or that he is. Jody, you said your mother was like that, had to be clean. I know that like my dad would come home sometimes, and he would be like flustered if things were out of sorts. Um, Behind Criminal Minds, I have not watched that channel very much, and I say that I'd like to know the creator behind that channel, because from what I understand, or I could be wrong, and I'm not trying to spread anything because I don't even want to get into any of that mess, but I want to say that's an AI channel. Like, yeah, they're putting stuff together. It's like, and it's not bad. Like, it's not bad quality in that it looks professionally done and it's great. But I'll tell you what, before I give my opinion on it, I will head over and um watch a video. But I want to say that they were commenting on some of my videos, and some of my subscribers were telling me to be careful because that was an AI channel. And those tend to not be very kind. So I don't know. I haven't seen it. If it was taken down, I would love to see it. Like, if the video was that good that it was taken down, I definitely would love to see that. So, okay, guys, I know some of you guys are saying that like Shanae said that she liked it because of her Italian roots. These are all things that we've heard in post-death interviews. She's never said that. Like, she never said that in text messages. She never mentioned it. I know Chris made mention of it. I want to say just a little bit in that prison interview, not enough to really gain anything from it. And I know that her family is very solid in their Italian beliefs and their Italian roots. Um, as far as like they identify with the Italian culture, which is pretty awesome because I mean, that's awesome. Like mine's Scottish. I think it's fantastic to um be proud of where he came from. But I don't know that he did not name that baby because his rights were not revoked, essentially. Like, there still has to be a death certificate. And I'm shocked that we don't have that. Like, we don't have the documentation of the baby. Now, the only other thing with regards to Nico and potentially why we may not see that document is or would be that I believe it you have to be like 20 to 22 weeks before they consider you a viable pregnancy, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. But of course, that then takes you into the abortion debates and things like that. And but I know, like for instance, here at our hospital locally, if you're not, I think you have to be like 14 to 20 weeks. And if you're not 14 to 20 weeks, then it's not considered viable, or 22 weeks, something like that. You have to be pretty far along. And it's absolutely ridiculous because I know I found out the sex of both of my sons. I found out one at 19 weeks and I found out the youngest one at 14 weeks. So the idea that someone would tell me that my pregnancy was not viable when I knew I was having boys, um, that was just absolutely unheard of to me. I'm still trying to get this picture over to you guys. And I don't understand why it's not wanting to show up. All right, I'm still here, guys. I appreciate you. I know we're almost at like 2 hours. I can't believe it, but I'm gonna let this play a little bit
She's got her
more.
suitcase in the other. We see no Starbucks cups, no trash in her hand, or anything like that. Now, this doesn't mean that it couldn't have been in her purse. However, I wouldn't think that she would risk crumbs or coffee spilling out in her purse. And furthermore, I don't recall seeing any present in the photos of the purse from the evidence photos. So, that, in my opinion, is a question for Chris. Who ate the Pro Bars? Who ate them that morning? And where did the Starbucks cup come from? Does this indicate to you that a friend may have stopped by that morning and brought the Starbucks? Or who was this person? Was it Nicole A or was it Nicole K? My thoughts are that he tried to end things and she showed up early that morning. She knew he was supposed to be at work, and if he was at work, then she could have had a one-to-one conversation with Shanann. If Chris is telling the truth about introducing them earlier on in the year, then Shanann would have recognized her and potentially opened the back door, or worse, she may have even walked out to Kristen Kessinger in the garage. The quote, "she wasn't supposed to be there," made by Chris, makes a little more sense like this. Imagine you just return home in the wee hours of the morning. Your marriage is on the rocks, and you wake up to find another familiar face in the garage at dark 30 in the morning with your husband. How does this conversation go? When you comment below, please share what you think you would do if this situation occurred in your home. We can learn more by different perspectives and personal opinions than by simply regurgitating the case and personal opinions regarding Shanann and what we think she should have done. Like, tell me, in the event that this happened to you, how do you think you would have handled it? If the women were talking among themselves, then Chris would be laser focused on getting the out of there that morning, especially because he knew that all hell was about to break loose. Maybe Kessinger approaches Shania and says, "Hey, I've been sleeping with your husband for X amount of time. He's BSing us both. I'm out, but felt you should know. I'm sorry, and here's the coffee." Let's assume the best about Kessinger, because you don't just go into a jury trial saying, "Oh,
I do want to say this. I know that people are saying that the Thayers were the ones that had the Starbucks in their hands. I'm not denouncing that. I'm not saying that it was not the Thayers Starbucks cup that was in there. However, a couple of things. When the Thayers are holding their cup, they're holding a white Starbucks cup. This may end up being a video on its own. I want to say it was a white Starbucks cup, like, when you go to Starbucks and you get a hot coffee or an espresso and they give you that little white cup. These were like iced coffee cups, like French vanilla iced coffee, that kind of thing. That's what was I think it was a caramel macchiato is actually what was in the trash can. Um, and for the life of me, if I can get this picture to post, then I'll show it to you guys. Um, I would just simply say to that I would need to see the timestamp of the photo that was taken and the exact time of when the Thayers were standing outside with their coffee cup, because I don't believe I do understand there's a Starbucks nearby, and the Thayers were coming over to check things out, see how Chris was doing. They probably stopped by Starbucks too. I mean, gosh, I just cleared out 5 Starbucks cups out of my car the other day. Like, if it's nearby, you swing in there quite a bit. Um, I don't know that I believe it was the Thayers, but I do want to know, where the heck did they come from? Whose were they? And why did law enforcement not dive into that some more? You cannot tell me Starbucks did not have surveillance cameras. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's too many surveillance camera issues that we don't see. So, moving on. I'm still trying to get this picture up.
think she did it," and not having any evidence to back it up. So let's say she bought hook, line, and sinker that he was getting a divorce and that he was indeed separated, which is a problem in and of itself, but let's give the benefit of the doubt. She was under the impression he was done and moving out, then realizes he's not, and he's going to throw her down, pretending like nothing happened at all. Only she gets there and the house is empty. No lights are on, so then she drives around back. Still nothing. Did she go in through the basement? Who put the front door lock on that morning? When
Same,
did it get
Donna.
put on? Was it Shania, Kessinger, Atkinson? Many argue that if she showed up, we would see the doorbell footage. However, if part of her immunity was sealing the details of the bombshell evidence that Ruart claims she gave, then we would not be privy to this footage. The R's claim that they have more than we do and they no longer blame her. No matter how much they wanted to blame her, they know she had nothing to do with it. So something had to be revealed, or else the family is just sticking their heads in the mud and refusing to continue to fight, which I do not believe. They are fighting something. I'm just not quite sure exactly what or who they think they are fighting. Personally, it's my opinion that it's grief. That's neither here nor there for this video. The phone pinged essentially outside of the Watts house, and it has been confirmed in
Okay, so before the phone ping stuff starts, and we get ready to wrap this thing up, I do want to address this with Holly. I think you're right. I think that there was a lot of I think a lot of people don't give Shania the credit that she deserves. In that, do I believe Shania knew there was another woman? I believe she knew. It may have taken her a little bit of time to figure out who the hell this woman was, but she knew. whether it was subconsciously, in her gut, I think she knew there was something, there was another woman lurking. But I'm going to tell you this about men who cheat and have an affair. And I'll share a little personal tidbit with, with myself. And that is the person, and again, this was a long time ago. So even when I share this, please don't think that this was anything recent. The person my ex-husband ended up running off with was somebody that I would, if the two of them would have been locked in a room together for a weekend, I would never have questioned it. I would have never batted an eye. I would have never felt threatened. I wouldn't have been worried about it. I kid you not. I would have not blinked twice. The people they leave you for are typically the ones that you would never suspect were even a threat. So, is it possible that Shanae met Nicole? Maybe. Maybe she did. Maybe she knew that Kessinger worked in the office. I mean, you guys have to think he goes to work Monday through Friday. Like, if there's a woman in the office, I'm pretty sure Shanae's going to know, like, who's in the office building. And, he had a work phone and a work email and stuff. So, him getting a text message or an email from a woman at work was not anything like alarming. And then, if in fact she did meet her, I mean, when you put the two side by side, it's not to say, oh, one's pretty, and I've seen it before, and I don't even want to go down that route. It's not about that. It's look at the nature of the woman, look at who they are. Shanann liked to be put together. She liked to be, have makeup on, and she loved to rock her lipstick. And she was good at it. I love the color lipstick that she uses. And Kessinger's still finding herself. She's this 30-year-old woman working out, focused and almost obsessive over macros and really hitting the gym and things like that. She's just on a different page. She's on been a completely different book. And I guarantee you, if the two ever cross paths, I bet you Shanann never thought twice about it. Because I'm going to be frank with you, I would never have thought twice about it. Absolutely not. And that's usually how it goes. So, do I think that she knew there was somebody? Yes. Do I think that she knew off the bat that it was Nicole Kessinger? No. Do I think eventually it came to light who it was? Yes. Do I think she may have even had words with her at some point? Yeah. Do I think that um, a lot of what we see, like where Chris moves down to the basement in March, that was not a coincidence. I really believe that all hell hit the fan that March 2018. And then they had been trying to mend and rebuild and rekindle their marriage from March onward. That's why when we see them in Vegas together at when she's test driving the car, like you see the flirtatiousness between the two of them. Um, it's easy to go on vacation together and fall back in love, and then you come back home and you got to do the laundry, or he's chewing too loud, or she threw her towel on the floor, or the trash didn't get taken out, and now you're right back into this whole, you know round and round and round you go with the day-to-day stuff, and you can't stand each other. Now, everyone says like, oh, that was never them. Well, you don't know. You don't know, and I don't know, and her parents don't know, and her friends don't know, because guess what, guys? When the door shuts and you're on the outside and they're on the inside, you don't know what goes on. Unless there is a video with audio, you don't see it. Holly, I think we all have. I know that even moving into this new case for my channel has been extremely difficult because my subscribers are like, no, bring us back to Watts. And I'm like, I'm trying to bring you more Watts content, but I really have to stick to the promise I made to myself and to Shania that I would only create content that was going to serve a purpose and move us hopefully progressively forward as women and even men, and as a society raise some awareness in the meantime. And so I'm trying to do that. So you guys got to come with me on this because that is how that is why I'm bringing this new case in. It's because it's going to spur up a lot more content, a lot more conversations that we can have regarding the Watts case, but we're going to be able to have it in such a dynamic form that it's going to be, we can talk Watts and we can talk Markel, but we can also talk about these domestic issues, and it's going to continue to carry the purpose as opposed to just being one of those channels that is just like, oh, Team Shenan and oh, Team Kessinger and oh, Team Watts. And like both of these families lost so much. And we have to keep that in mind. You know, Cindy Watts is still a mother. She's still a grandmother. Um, Sandra and Frank and Frankie, like, good God, like, I think probably one of the hardest things I heard Frankie say is, like, that was it. He's never gonna hear Uncle Frankie again because he doesn't have a sibling to give him any more nieces and nephews. That broke, oh my gosh, I have chills now. Like, that just broke my heart because it's the truth. Chris Watts may be in prison for the rest of his life, but Jamie still has her kids. They're still he still has nieces and nephews. So each side has lost tremendously, but they've lost differently, very differently. And so I'm looking forward to that is going to be the next series. So as we're wrapping this up, because we're getting close to that 2 hour mark, so we definitely are going to wrap this one up. But it absolutely has just wrecked my heart to think, because I mean I'm one of three biological children. Then my parents adopted five, and then they adopted four more. So I think our count total is like up to 13. Now, don't get me wrong, we've all grown up. My mom passed away, and when she passed, it was kind of like the glue, and everyone just scattered. But like I grew up knowing that I have multiple siblings, and I'm very blessed in that respect. But with Frankie, that's not the case. And so it's not to say that like I've defended him because, you know, I don't know, whatever reason people want to say, but it's just I do defend his stance on things. You know, primarily from a sibling standpoint. And it's very important to remember we are talking about people. We are talking about people that could be your next door neighbor. It could be your brother, your sister. It could be your husband. It could be your parents. And if you can get that in your head and you can grasp and hold on to that, then when you're in these comment sections and you're seeing this stuff, so like for example, I follow with the Markel case, I'm going to put this up there. The Markel case is it is a case that's local to me. The victim was an FSU law professor. So here at FSU, hang on. Here at FSU, he was a law professor. So when I tell you that every lawyer here in Tallahassee has been jumping on board covering this case, and I'm talking prosecuting attorneys, uh, defense attorneys. I'm seeing psychologists, sociologists. Um, I mean, because you guys have to think like we live in the capital city here, but it's still very small. And now we have had 4 trials, 4 murder convictions, 4 conspiracy convictions. We've got one more fixing to have, like one more trial on the horizon, and we have 2 unindicted co-conspirators still remaining. This town has been rocked by this. So where I'm going with this is the case that I'm covering now, it's very personal, very local. But there are certain channels that I do not watch because um, when I'm watching the videos or their lives and I hear them just throw in like passive, like insults or passive jabs, no matter who it's against, um, I'll stop watching. It's such a turnoff to me because my whole thing is this. There are lawyers out there, there are defense attorneys, prosecutors, there's law enforcement. There are people with a like just a whole humongous like plethora of knowledge. And I would love to tap into that knowledge and ask questions and learn more, but I don't want to do it coming from a biased perspective. And so that's really what I want this channel to remain. I want you to be able to come here. I want you to be able to be in the chat, have an opinion. I want you to be able to share it. I want you to continue to be respectful to both sides, no matter what, because the only way you're going to be a better human is to remember that we're talking and studying and discussing other human beings. These are not just I mean, we use the term, or the DA used the term monster in his, in the statement that he gave at the sentencing. And, we hear the word monster and you think this like goblin. And the truth is the prison system is filled with people who made one bad decision or felt like they had no other way out or snapped or truly are evil and deserve to be there. And I'm not saying that none of them deserve to be there. They do. You do the crime, you do the time, period. Right is right, wrong is wrong. But we still need to be mindful of that when we're talking about it. And so I do believe that the next Watch series that we're going to have is going to be a very thorough series on grief and the impacts of both the victim and the murderer in these types of cases, primarily dealing with the Watts. So I will be going through the grief stages and really deep diving into different behaviors that we've seen over the last 5 years and what that potentially can point to. And once the cycles of grief start to subside, will we start to see or gain more answers or more insight? And my answer to that is yes. I do believe we've got more coming, but I think that in the meantime, I think this family they're really just, they're wanting a reprieve. They're wanting some sort of rest. And, you know, all I ask of you guys that are my subscribers on this channel is that when you're out there in the true crime world and you're watching other videos and other lives, I just really, really hope that you pay attention to the tone of the lives. You pay attention to the attitude and the behaviors behind the creators and the chats. That way, you keep that objectivity and you keep that ability to really think critically instead of falling into that like gossipy, over the top, toxic environment. Okay. I thank you guys so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you being here. If you're new, please don't hesitate. Hit that subscribe button, the notifications there if you want to get notifications. And please, if you don't mind, share the channel. And I will definitely be back. And I'll be working on I'm doing another case for the Markel case. I'm doing another drive through Tallahassee tomorrow, so I'll be uploading some footage and going over the ex-wife's interview with police. So I want to look back. I did see one comment. I think it was Stephanie. Let me just see. Oh, you're welcome, Stephanie. I do appreciate that. It really does. This case really gripped me, but my firm belief why Shanann Watts' case will never go, like, it'll never be forgotten is because Shanann Watts' case is the closest thing to reality that we have seen on TV or that we've seen or learned about with regards to where our society is today, as far as like social media and that type of stuff. Yeah, I hope everybody stays warm. We're here in Florida and I just had to turn the heater on and I have like a little heater that blows right in my face because I hate to be cold. Oh, thank you, Holly. Donna, I enjoyed having you here. Thank you for being here. I did, if you're still here, I wanted to read something. I did, oh shoot. I did want to say that I'm no longer working with an iPhone 7, which is what I originally started this entire channel out with. Um, but I found, where was it? I'll have to post the article and the link later, but I found an article where it was talking about basically like the divorce rate is highest among those on social and network marketing. And I found that very interesting because you think about it after COVID. So Shanann Watts' case, hey Vanessa, gosh, we don't even know what humid and hot is right now. We're freezing. You guys can chat for just a second. I'm just gonna look and see real quick if I have it. It was very interesting because if you think about it in the terms of like post COVID, everyone has been doing, you see on like TikToks where they all have like their TikTok shops and they're all talking about clothing and branding and all of this kind of stuff. Like people have been making a fortune off that stuff. And I can't help but think that like if Shanann were here today, she would be making bank off of that stuff. She would be like the biggest TikToker. Um, and I feel like we would see so much of her personality like shining through. Um, and I hate that. I hate that like her family and her friends didn't, they were robbed of that opportunity to really get to just experience her being around longer than she was. It's really, really disheartening. I did want to address, yes, Shanann had a birthday and hey, Atlas. We were hanging out, man. We were hanging in here for you guys. Um, the What's the Obsession did a live tonight, and I believe she started shortly before I did, and so I know that quite a few were over in her live. So, Atlas, I'm happy you made it, hun. Let's see, Rochester. Yeah, see, guys, we're in Florida, and anything below 70 is considered freezing, and right now it's 37. So, like, my bones don't even know what to think at this point. I mean, they're just like, what are we doing? Um, I did want to say, yes, I knew that Shanann's birthday recently passed, and she would have been 40 years old. I did notice quite a few channels posting things. I know in the past that I've posted things, and I don't I haven't really figured out how to put it into words just simply because my my experience being at the graveside last year at Christmas was very, very personal, and there were just personal things that I promised myself moving forward. And so these past couple of weeks, my attention has needed to be on my family, at work, things like that. And so I genuinely have not been on YouTube as much. And that's why I was like, oh, let's just do this longer live and let's just kind of chat and get caught up. I did see that Sandra, Miss Rusek, um, made a really warm and loving post and Facebook post. And um, it's just one of those things where I don't know that I'll ever be able to really put it into words what it meant for me to make that trip to North Carolina, but it was extremely humbling. And I know that there's not a Facebook post in the world that I could ever post to ever really like get across or say what I want, what I would like to say. And so, yes, I did wish her a happy birthday in my heart, but I just did not feel the need to make a make a post about it. Yeah, I really liked how her mom was making those videos where like you could learn how to make the stuff that she made. Like I actually am getting ready to do the mini cannolis. Like every time I watch that video of Shania, I always want to go make mini cannolis, and I've never made them before. I go into Publix and I see cannolis, and I think of Shania because of that video. And if that's, I know that there's controversy with the whole shining light thing, and that whole crew has been a bit obnoxious at times, but like if her light shines enough to where in any type of circumstance or situation that you honestly should get out of, if her story and her case comes to mind, then she's still helping. And, for anybody to be hypercritical and whatnot, like no one is perfect. And I had this conversation briefly with my ride or die the other day, and because we were talking about how no one ever says anything negative about Chris Watts. And that's actually something that's different in the Dan Markel case. And I can't wait to share with you about that. But in my ride or die and I were talking, and I'm like, girl, you won't even have to go back very far for me. You ask anybody who even remotely knows me, and they'll tell you I'm loving, I'm compassionate, I'm caring. I give you the shirt off my back. I'm a hard worker. Like, they'll tell you all the good things. And then rest assured, they're also going to tell you don't cross this line. Don't mess with her kids. She's going to tell you what she's thinking. It may be blunt, it may hurt your feelings, but she's straight up. There's no facade there. And I don't feel like we hear that about Chris. No one has been able to come out and say, "Oh, he's just straightforward. He'll tell you like it is. He's not going to beat around the bush." Or he may hurt your feelings, but he's really just trying to, kind of like what Atkinson said about Shania, and people have tried to turn it into something negative. And I think Atkinson said, um, she said, "Oh, she's a little bitchy sometimes, but it's like she's like that to you because she wants you to succeed. Like she's pushy or bossy." I think bossy was the word. Um, like she's bossy sometimes, but she's only bossy because she wants to see you succeed. Like that's real. That's a real assessment of a real person. And that's why when I hear all the BS nonsense about Shanann, etc., it's like you can say what you want and you can try to call it controlling and whatnot, but it's not controlling. She likes things a certain way and she says it. The difference is a healthy individual and a healthy counter would have been able to say, oh no, babe, I don't really care to do this, but why don't we go try, listen, I know you don't want to be around my parents right now, but do you mind if will you ride with me and take the girls to see my grandma, and then you can take them and go get ice cream and I'll visit with my family or something like that. Like a strong, confident, um, secure individual would be able to have those conversations and not feel like they have to tiptoe on each other. And that's a huge problem in the world today is the people who actually say what they mean and mean what they say, they're the ones that are being called controlling and bossy and, you know, all the negatives. And then you've got the ones just because they're quiet and just because they're calm, like seemingly calm, and they don't bring about conflict or anything, and they're just like the yes mans and the yes women's of society. It's like, oh, they're just so loving and they're so amazing, and they're no, they're not. They're fake. They are fake until they can't fake it anymore. And then they freaking lose their absolute minds. And then you see the monster. And unless you've been behind those closed doors with that monster, you have no freaking idea what it's like. So I pray to God that none of you guys are in that situation. And if you are, please know I have resources that can at least help get you mentally and emotionally in the right place, that if you're trying to plan and get ready to leave, then make sure you're safe. That's the big thing. Make sure you're safe, and there's always um, help. I'm working on it, guys. I've been trying to design a t-shirt to launch to raise money so that I can make like $500 contributions to women's shelters nationwide. And My first my first design, I was told, was a little bit dark, and I don't know, I'm quite proud of it. So anyone that's been through emotional, mental, and verbal abuse, you know that it's a very dark situation. And but I'd really like to start raising money for local shelters, and not just local like to me, but I'd like to be able to contribute $300 to $500 to at least one shelter in each state by the end of the year. That is that's essentially a goal of mine for the channel, because $500 doesn't seem like much, $300 doesn't seem like much, but to a woman or a man trying to leave on the right foot and in the right way without snapping and doing something stupid. um Sometimes it's just needing a hotel room for a couple nights, or gas to get to work so they can save money. And there's a whole lot of thought behind that. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with the channel, but I yeah. There's a lot going on behind the channel. I know I don't post near as much as some channels do, but I really, really just don't want to just randomly post stuff. I want it to be meaningful. I want you to be able to walk away from it and say, I want you to be able to have conversations with your friends and your colleagues and be like, "Oh, I didn't even think about it like this," but, you know, um, yeah. So if this channel helps at least one of you, or just lets you know that you're not alone and gives you a sense of community and friendship in the chat, then I'm here for it. I'm really excited to have 27 of you still here after 2 hours. That's kind of crazy. But I'm very, very much appreciative of you guys. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season. I know it's tough for a lot of people. Holly, that is the sweetest thing you could have said. Um, I would have really liked to, I think I would have liked to have hung out with her too. Um, Donna, even with NK, I don't think he had any guts when it came to Kessinger either. And I don't think that he wasn't that ballless, you know, like he was a narcissist. He covered it up a lot by being quiet and being that introvert, but rest assured, that's the Kessinger was his supply. You know, he talks about, "Oh, she's like a drug." Yeah, it's called narcissistic supply. Like, my ex had another woman doing his laundry before all my stuff was out of the garage. Like, it's crazy. And the sad part is when their own best friends know better and still let their friends date these kind of people, without saying anything. So just stay alert, guys. I love each one of you. I really do. And when you ask for prayers, I want you to know I am praying for you guys. Don't ever hesitate with that. Um, see, Stephanie says, I'm so opposite of Shanann, but I think she would have even been able to make me feel accepted, loved, and like you belong. I agree. But I think that had a lot to do with her sales training and stuff too. Like, not to say that she wouldn't be genuine, but like, you have to be able to talk to anybody and everybody and make them feel encouraged. And she did that. I think you can watch any of her videos and you see that. The only ones seeing these like horrible things are the ones trying to make something out of something that is not quite there. I know what they're talking about. And what's the recent, there's several other cases that showcase what they're trying to say was going on in the Watts. And I've seen it myself personally as a pediatric nurse, and I can tell you some things do raise some red flags to me. Um, but to me, it comes across more so as like a difference in opinion on parenting, rather like her doing something that was essentially like wrong, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, we all parent differently. One of my sisters knows, don't bring my niece to my house and drop her off. You will be coming back and getting her because I will not tolerate certain things. And then I have other relatives that will bring their kids over and be like, here. Um, Everybody parents differently. What works for one does not work for all of them. And the sooner as a society we can get a grasp and a grip on that, we can stop trying to rip each other to shreds just because we choose to do things differently. You know, maybe you don't believe in letting a baby cry it out. I know I've had a pediatrician tell me to do that with my youngest son because he had already learned at 3 weeks old how to demand certain, like, he demanded attention and to be picked up. And like, it was guided and directed and instructed by a doctor how to do X, Y, and Z. And for some people, that's unfathomable and they would never think of that. Or they hear baby wise and it's, you know, perverted because someone doesn't do it by the book, or someone agrees with it or doesn't agree with it. Speaking of which, I actually bought the book so I can read it, even though I have an 18 and a 14-year-old, and I will not be having any more children. Um, but I bought it to read because I want to do a very thorough, in-depth coverage on Baby Wise. And I'm hoping to interview one of my really good friends who I highly respect and admire. And she's a wonderful mother. Her children, she has 3 children, they're all teenagers now. And I do believe she actually used Baby Wise on her kids. I did not. She did. I know that her parents had a field day and a hard time with it, and most of the people around her were very opinionated about it. Um, but I would love to like interview her about that and just kind of gain insight into how she approached it and what were some concerns of hers, things like that. So all the things, I'm switching over my notebooks. I am condensing all my videos and my photos so that they're more easily accessible. You guys will be hearing the word and the name Daniel Markel more than anything on this channel over the next few weeks. You will be hearing Donna Adelson, Wendy Adelson, Harvey Adelson, Charlie Adelson, and I really, really hope that you guys will jump in there with me on these, because I want you to be able to see firsthand and witness much of the questions we've had in Watts and why law enforcement did not do X, Y, and Z. You will see Tallahassee's law enforcement was on point. Our prosecuting attorney's office went through a change where the original prosecuting attorney did not want to do anything, and then we got a new one, and then now it's moving swiftly. Um, all the things that we did not see in Watts, we are seeing in this case, and I really just want you to be able to look at the two and say, you know what? You guys aren't losing your minds. Like, you're looking at a case and going, why was this not investigated more? And I think you will see Florida and Colorado are very different too. Like Florida, everything's available. Like you can request documentation. Um, I forget the policy name, but it's like it's wide open to the public. And so there is no hiding anything. Um, you just have to, of course, go through the appropriate channels. But anyway, done with all of that. I'm really happy you guys are here. I really appreciate it. We're almost at 2.5 hours. Cannot believe that. I am going to probably turn into bed soon. And again, thank you guys so much. Thank you for the support, for your comments. And please don't ever hesitate. Even if you like go back, or you're watching a video, or maybe you haven't caught a series yet, if you start the series and as it's playing, you're like, ooh, what about this? And ooh, what about that? Put it in the comments. You don't bother me if you're commenting every 30 seconds because something else popped in your head. I welcome it and I appreciate it. Good night, everybody. Stephanie, thank you so much for all the love and support throughout chat. Donna, thank you and good night. Holly, I hope you have a good evening. You guys stay warm. Yes, Donna, the mini cannolis were delicious for sure. All right, guys, I am going to sign off of here. All right, you take care, guys. It's January. Happy 2024. I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.